This is Holly, the Amity Knitter. Today, I am on my way to Mountain Spinnery in Putney, Vermont. I thought I would share a little bit of the organization's mission. Further into the video, you will learn more about their founding and the structure of the cooperative business practices that they have. So I thought I would share a little bit more about the mission. It's really an amazing organization that I have followed and have shopped and have visited and gone to events at for many, many years. So the purpose of the Mountain Spinnery is summarized in 4 areas. The first is to produce and sell the finest American wool yarn from New England sheep for use by hand weavers and knitters. They want to process a wide range of natural fibers which are locally available and to enhance them with outstanding colors. They also would like to produce lanolin. Second, to scale their production approximately 600 pounds a week in ways that not only minimize adverse effects on the environment, but also minimize the need for shipping raw materials and finished yarn over long distances. So really focusing on the environmental impact of the business as much as the making of the yarn. So the third is to work towards self-reliance in their geographical region by providing specialty yarns to area craft people, by providing a service to sheep breeders not otherwise available through custom processing and fleece acquisition, and thus encouraging diversified farming using regionally available raw materials to make a product needed in the region. They want to be a role model for small business geared to meet a regional need, encouraging others in similar ventures, and working toward using a locally available renewable energy resource to heat their building, heat water, and power machinery, converting to that source as soon as possible. And fourth, to create a vital work environment where workers are challenged to make use of their skills to evolve into a worker-owned business. So they've had success. This is a worker-owned business. It's a fabulous concept, and it has sustained them since the 1980s. So as you can see, I'm driving north on I-91. I left Western Massachusetts this morning at approximately 9:30 and started the drive north. Really took my time because it was flurrying and I was so excited to see snowflakes. It just made my whole day come together. So as I am driving down the highway now, we are approaching exit 4. Exit 4 on I-91 in the state of Vermont is Putney. When we get off the exit, you will see straight ahead is the Putney Inn, a long-standing business in the region. And then directly across the street is Mountain Spinnery. It is, as you will see, a very quick turn off the highway. It's so fast, so easy to get to. So here we go. We are exiting Route 91. You'll see the beautiful Putney Inn in front of us as we start to come down the off-ramp. I've eaten dinner there a few times over the years. As you'll see later in the video, I tend to go a little bit further south for food because it's a little bit quicker, not an expectation for sitting down. But there is the Putney Inn, and I'm gonna make this right turn and go right into the parking lot for the Mountain Spinnery. So 3 cheers all around. I was so excited to get there. It took about an hour and 5 minutes from Northampton, Massachusetts, and it was an easy drive, so relaxed because I'm going to get to learn more about how local yarn is processed on a local basis, how they color their yarn, and possibly to find some yarn for myself. So I'm going to head into the building now and go meet Kate Salomon, who is one of the owner-operators of the mill. I'm very excited. I hope you'll stay with me and watch our full tour today.
So it's a good place to give you some of the backstory of the mill.
Oh,
Which
that would be
helpful.
fabulous. I've been reading the website repeatedly for the last 2 weeks, and I had this whole list of questions, and I said, why don't you just say, would you please share with me instead of asking? So if you don't mind, I'm going to turn the camera on.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Terrific. Thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Terrific. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kate Salomon, and we're here at Green Mountain Spinnery in Putney, Vermont. We're a worker-owned cooperative, and that means that of the 10 people that work here right now, 5 are worker owners, and so all of the decisions get made by that group by consensus, which is pretty exciting. So the mill got started back in the late 70s. There were a group of folks who lived here in the area, several of whom were fiber enthusiasts, one of whom had a small flock of sheep. And one of her frustrations was that everybody that she knew in the area that was enthusiastic about fiber and knitting and weaving and spinning and doing all the things, they were ordering their yarn from the UK because they didn't have a local resource available to them. And so here she was raising sheep in her own backyard, and yet she was shipping yarn in from over the Atlantic. So just east of us is Harrisville, which is another woolen yarn mill. They operate at a much larger scale than we do. So they've been in operation since about 1850. But for the single carding machine that we have here, they have at times had as many as 8. And so their minimums were very large. They were about 250 pounds of fiber for a single batch of yarn.
Wow.
And a fleece is about 5 to 7 pounds. So for folks who have a small homestead who are raising a very small flock of animals, that represents years worth of fiber that they're saving in order to make a batch of yarn. And so we got started with the idea of operating at a smaller scale. At this point, our minimums are just 35 pounds of raw fiber. So that's just 5 to 7 sheep.
Oh, that's amazing.
And so that means that we can provide much smaller fiber producers an opportunity to have a product made from their own fiber that gives them a chance to introduce their possibly just friends and family, but maybe some of their own customers to their fiber. And for some folks who are going to the trouble of raising heritage breed animals, like Tammy White of Wing and a Prayer Farm, who is doing all kinds of important work to bring the black-nosed Valois sheep here to the United States, we can make a batch of yarn of just those animals within her entire flock, allowing her to highlight the attributes of that animal's fiber and the importance of raising that animal and keeping that breed going.
I would have been sitting with all these people, and I'd come up with my friend Claudia, and we ended up spending the whole day. And we thought, oh, we'll take a short trip, but again, we ended up being here the whole day, so it was cool. First, let me say the trip to the fiber shed in the back of the mill was amazing. I feel like I could have stayed there for the entire visit. There was so much to see and so much to learn about. The vast quantity of fiber that they have was amazing to me, and I learned so much. You will see a little bit later in the video where Kate really pointed out some of the differences in the fibers that they have and the qualities that they're looking for to make the highest quality product at the mill. So again, just doing this tour was so cool, being in this fiber shed.
Is a service we're providing for other people. So the majority of the yarn that we're spinning here is fiber that people have sent us, and then we make yarn to their specifications.
Become my wingman.
Well, thank you. So we have 2 little balls of wool here. In my right hand, I have some raw wool. And so you can see that it still has quite a lot of vegetable matter in it. It's got a beautiful crimp and a really beautiful soft creamy color.
Look here. Look at this.
Yeah. get right on in
I
here.
know. Look at the crimping in here. Look how
Isn't that
beautiful that is.
gorgeous?
And this is the lanolin, this color. Is that right?
No.
Okay.
But what you can feel on your hands is the lanolin, that sort of sticky tackiness.
Yeah.
So that's a material that is extruded by the sheep. It essentially waterproofs their wool and has some antibacterial properties. So it helps heal cuts and things like that. So it provides a lot of benefits to the animal. But that sticky tackiness that you're feeling on your hands, while it keeps either moisture in for cosmetic purposes, often people use lanolin for that, or moisture out, which is what the sheep are using it for, it is a real problem in our machinery. And so we need the fiber to feel something closer to this.
What a difference.
Yeah.
What a difference.
So this is scoured wool. Now, these are two different batches of fiber. So you'll notice that there is a color distinction between the two. I don't want to give you the impression that scouring effectively bleaches the wool in any way. That's not what we're doing. When we're scouring, we're actually just removing that lanolin and the dirt and other unmentionables. But as you can see here, even after the scouring process, there's still quite a lot of vegetable matter in that fiber. That is potentially going to remain. Some of it will get shaken out during the carding process and then the spinning process. But a lot of our yarns have quite a lot of VM in them. And that's actually something that we like to think allows you to better understand just how natural and minimally processed the yarn is.
Love it. Wow. What a difference, though, to actually see it.
Yeah.
And then to have an opportunity to touch it at this stage.
There's a big difference.
Yes.
So in a minute, we're going to head in our scouring department. So I'll be able to show you how we clean our fiber up when it arrives here.
Great. All right. Onward we go.
Yeah.
Here, and then here with this beautiful gray. It really catches your eye when you're looking at this, the natural tones, and all of a sudden you see this black and what looks like white or ivory. With
Yeah. So that looks like it's got a tag on it that says it's from Mountain School. So that is probably a combination of different fleeces. Because it's a small amount, we're going to be adding multiple fleeces together in order to reach our minimums for a batch of yarn for that customer. But as you can see here, all of these bags are tagged. In many cases, the lot that we're going to be making will include multiple bags of fiber. In some cases, it's going to be bags that include different types of fiber. So we'll be blending wool with alpaca or with mohair from Angora goats, possibly some undyed alpaca. But typically, all of the yarn that you see here, this is all natural and undyed fiber. And so all the custom spinning that we're doing for folks is all going to be undyed. They may dye the skeins after the fact once we send it to them, but we don't have the space to offer any dyeing services here at the mill. And that's how we get the color into our yarns. Since we're not doing any dyeing here, you may have noticed, and hopefully you'll see again later in the video, the incredible spectrum of colors of yarns that we have in our shop. Those are all created by blending bale dyed wool. So it's fiber that is...
I haven't heard that term. So
let me tell you about it. So we work with a distributor in the center of the nation. They pull fiber from various different flocks all around the country to guarantee that we're getting a consistent product. So we're not necessarily getting a specific breed of sheep. We're looking for a specific staple length, so the length of the fiber, and a micron count, so a softness or a fineness of the fiber. By pooling wool from various different flocks and different breeds of sheep, we're creating a more consistent product when we're dealing with thousands of pounds of wool. We're then able to have that fiber sent from that distributor to a dye house. They can clean, scour, and dye it for us. So we actually have in our inventory an enormous stash of 13 different colors that we can blend with one another in our picker and our carder, sort of the way that your printer would combine CMYK toners to create every color you could dream of.
Yes, right.
So we can combine, based on the finished weight of the yarn, a certain ratio of yellow and blue to create a green tone, and then we could potentially add dark undyed fiber to sort of tone that color down, or bright white undyed fiber to lighten it up.
Wow.
Yeah,
Great.
for us, it allows us to control our costs a little bit better. It also gives us far more control over our dye lots, since we're dealing with mathematical ratios of a consistently dyed wool. We're better able to manage a match between dye lots of colors, as long as we're not adding a large quantity of undyed dark. That one is sort of the chaos factor, because that undyed dark fiber can change radically throughout a season depending on where the fiber is coming from. It can range from a dark charcoal gray, which is sort of cool in tone, to a warm chocolate brown, which is warm in tone. And those differences can have a pretty strong impact on the finished color of a fiber when there's a large content of undyed dark fiber mixed in with that recipe.
The things we're learning today.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right.
And very hot water do a lot of the work for us. So in the sink in the back here, we soak the fiber after it's been skirted, and like the really dirty bits of it have been separated out. Those typically go to compost. Once we have some clean fiber to work with, that still is going to have quite a lot of vegetable matter, and of course a lot of dirt and a lot of lintering. That gets put into the sink in the back, where it's going to be soaked with water that's heated up to about 170 degrees Fahrenheit. That intense heat melts the lanolin, and by adding a touch of organic dishwashing liquid, the soap bonds to the lanolin, preventing it from reattaching it to wool. But we need to be very careful, because when you combine wool with heat and water, if it is agitated, it will felt. So all the microscopic scales along the fiber, I don't know if you remember the old Pantene hair commercial.
Oh, yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
So those scales open up in the heat, and they can interlock if that wool is agitated. And it creates a really dense mat that you can't undo. So this crazy contraption was created for us by a couple of engineering students, and it holds the fiber into 3 rinse bags. In between each one, the fiber gets squeezed in between these rollers that are compressed using the air brake system from trucks. So the fiber gets squeezed and rinsed repeatedly, all without being agitated. It then ends up popping out into the bucket here at the end, so that we can transfer it into the oldest machine that we have here. This is a cast iron washing machine that was manufactured in 1898. It allows us to rinse the fiber one final time and then spin it out. Just like your salad spinner at home, it spins the yarn, or the wool I should say, and enough water is removed from the wool that we can actually put it in the industrial dryer in the corner and not worry about felting. Because while it is going to be hot and agitated, it's not as wet, and so we don't need to worry about felting. Now the fiber that comes out of this will either go directly into production, or it'll go back into the shed to wait for its turn in our production schedule. So here you can see some fiber. So all those different colors have been blended together. It's nice and open, it's very fluffy and soft. It's a little damp to the touch. It also has what looks like strands of yarn in it. That's actually the pencil roving. That's the finished product of our carding machine. As long as this material, this raw roving, has not yet been spun, it can be added back in as more raw material. So we can test the weight of the finished product of the pencil roving as we're starting a batch of yarn. And once we establish the correct weight so that the gearing of the machine is all set to go, we can then cut that material off the rolls and feed it back in, maximizing how much material we're getting through the machine. Well, here we'll be able to see like all those disparate colors. And what's kind of cool is that all of that gets blended into a more unified shade of that. So this is our cotton comfort line. This is an 80% wool, 20% cotton DK blend. It's a 2-ply yarn, so you can see that twist that's part of the yarn structure. And what's fun about this yarn is that this is one of the few yarns that we send out to be dyed after the fact. And so the beautiful flecky tweediness that you see here in these colors is actually the cotton content of the yarn that has absorbed less of the dye than the wool has. Wool up in this corner, so we've got our music line, as well as our 2 undyed New Mexico organic skeins. Now, we're one of the only organic mills in the United States. The Vermont state came up with certification program for us, so we can confirm that the fiber that is raised organically, so the animals are raised organically, so they are given special feed and there's minimal chemical treatment involved in their care. So the fiber that is certified organic remains certified organic through our production process and is still certified organic in its skein form. And that's one of the reasons why it is undyed. But you can see here, I think this color might be the best representation, or the Diamonds and Rust colorway. Here, all those beautiful flecky colors that you can see in this yarn, that is the bale dyed wool that was picked a little bit less thoroughly before it got into the carding machine, so that those raw colors end up coming through the final skeins even after it has been spun and plied. A skein of our Alpaca Elegance and the 100% wool. Now the Alpaca Elegance is a blend of 50% alpaca and 50% wool. And if you back up a little bit, I'm going to show you a property of the yarn. That droopiness that you're seeing in this alpaca skein is the beautiful soft drape that alpaca is giving to that yarn. So here we have 100% wool, there we've got alpaca, and that beautiful softness ends up translating into the finished fabric of the garment. This is a wool and tencel blend. Tencel is a man-made pulp product similar to rayon, but made in a closed loop system, so there are fewer chemical pollutants in its creation. Like any plant material, similar to bamboo or silk, even though silk is not a plant material, I do sort of put it in that category because it comes from mulberry, even though it's been passed through a little silkworm. I don't know, but they all have a similar quality in that they also provide absolutely beautiful drape. So that soft fluidity that we're seeing in the skein here translates into the finished fabric of the garment. The tencel content in this yarn is visible in the sort of sheen that you see on this yarn. Tencel is a very bright white. It reflects quite a lot of light. As a result, it provides beautiful stitch definition in a finished fabric.
Hi, Marley. Thanks so much for joining me. We are still here at Green Mountain Spinnery, and we've just come back into this storage room. It's very chilly in here, but you don't hear the machinery back here. So Marley deals much more with the finance and the business aspect of the mill. And so she's agreed to share a little bit with us about what it means to be a cooperative mill, and then to be a mill in New England, and then to be a mill that was founded with a pretty clear mission. And what does that mean for the folks who work here and for the people who send their wool here? So thanks, Marley. I'm so grateful. So I'm going to let you start, and I promise I will not be able to keep my mouth shut. I will be asking questions.
Well, I will say that I've only been an owner for the past since June, so there's a lot that I'm still learning, and I think that that is representative of a lot of what it's like here at the mill. We're definitely in a time of transition, as so many places are these days. So I guess if your overall question is like, how do we function as a co-op, or why? Yes, could you ask me a question?
I would be happy to ask you a question.
Yeah.
So the cooperative model, on what I read on your website, and to the Amity knitters listening, if you've never been to the website for Green Mountain Spinnery, you should go to the about and the history, because the mission is just so clear. So it was set in the mission at the founding of the spinnery to become a cooperative. So that would be great. And how that has evolved, it would be, I'd love to hear that.
I wish that David were here to speak to it a little bit more, because David is our last remaining founding owner.
Oh my gosh, wow.
Yeah, and he has...
That just means I have to come back.
Yeah.
That's all that
means.
means.
Please, yes. Yes. Yeah, so the founding owners, when they started, did have the mission of becoming a cooperative. I think the message that I have received from that story, and of course I wasn't there for it, was that we're in this... Well, so I know that the founders, that two of the founders were knitters, and were thinking, I see sheep locally, why don't I have yarn from these sheep?
Yeah.
And so they had this beautiful mission to create locally made yarn. And I think there was a spirit of like, none of us can do this by ourselves, so we're going to have to do it together. And if we're going to be doing it together, then we each need ownership of our work. We need autonomy. We need to be able to like own what we are doing and make choices collaboratively and together. And I don't know if, I think that maybe at the beginning the founders kind of operated in this collaborative way, but it wasn't until I think 2006 when the mill formally created a cooperative structure that I think that for a while, when it was just getting up and rolling, not everybody who was working at the mill was ready to like buy in and become an owner of the mill. And so that didn't really come about until Libby and Claire were ready to retire. And then there was this transitional period where it seems like people were ready to kind of take that role and start moving on. And we kind of might be in a similar position now, not that there hasn't been like lots of changes throughout the history of the mill, but now with David, our last remaining founding owner, planning his retirement, I think that we're back in kind of the situation where we're kind of recalibrating exactly how we want to work collaboratively, and what exactly ownership means and how to carry on that legacy.
Mm-hmm. Wow, it's such an amazing story. I mean, you hear of cooperative grocery stores or cooperative farm stands and things, but you don't necessarily hear about it for a fiber mill. So thank you so much for sharing. One thing that caught my attention was when Kate talked about 5 decision-making owners. How does the decision-making process, because I know in my family there's only 2 of us right now making decisions, and 2 can be difficult. 5 to me sounds incredibly intense and scary, but how does that process work?
It can be, and I think that that's an apt comparison to make to a family structure. I think that there's something when you only have, when you have 5 people, but you only have 5 people, it makes sense for those decision-making structures to be pretty informal and collaborative in that way. I think that a lot of our decision-making, like each role is very specialized and takes a lot of time to learn, and so there's a lot of trust where like Maureen has been doing finances for so long. Like when she has a sense of what call to make, I for the most part trust her, and like she definitely keeps us informed, and we try and make those decisions when there are decisions to be made collaboratively, we try and do it together. But also things like with equipment or like production or things like that, the people who have been working in those roles understand the nuances of them pretty well, and so like there's room for collaboration, and there's also room for autonomy, and I think that there's a kind of constant we're kind of constantly aware of what hat we're wearing, and trying to make sure that we are shifting in the appropriate way for the decision at hand. But the decisions, it's not like we know ahead of time what decisions we're going to be making. So
much like a family.
Yes,
I get
so
that.
much
Okay,
like a family.
So much like a family.
Yeah.
So before we go, I just want to ask you, how did you start here at Green Mountain Spinnery?
So I started in scouring a couple of years ago. I had been in Connecticut for grad school and figured that was not my path and needed something new to do. And I've always felt at home with fiber and with yarn.
Are you a knitter, crocheter, spinner? Okay, all of the above? Okay.
Knitter and weaver. Learning a little bit of spinning just because I learned spinning here. So it's very, different on the mill equipment and
yes.
in your hands. Yeah. So this was just a nice natural place for me to fit, and I have been very grateful to see how it's unfolded for me. So
that's fabulous. I love the story. Good evening, everyone. It's Holly, the OG Amity Knitter. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Amity Knitters. Thank you for finding the channel and for taking the time to watch the video about my trip up on Tuesday of this week on the 11th of November to Green Mountain Spinnery. It was a fabulous trip.
Really easy for me to get to from Western Massachusetts, just over an hour. I had been doing a lot of studying up on the mill for a few weeks leading up to the trip, but I'll tell you, I've gone up there many times in the years that I've been knitting. I've bought lots of yarn up there and several patterns, and I've had a tour, but nothing like this tour. This was so in-depth, and all of my questions were answered, and whether Kate Salomon thought they were silly or not, she was incredible and just answered all of my questions, which was great. And then met with Marley from the office. They are both owners in the cooperative up at the mill, and Marley answered all my questions. Despite being a little bit shy on the camera, she was fabulous and so sweet. And so I'm very grateful to both of them and the whole team, because there were several people working in the mill, and everybody just made room for us to move around and to ask questions and watch them work, which is never easy if somebody's looking over your shoulder. But everyone was incredibly gracious. So I'm very grateful to the whole team up at Green Mountain Spinnery. So I thought I would share a little bit with you. You did see the flash on the end of my video, I think, of where I went to the Vermont Country Deli. It is one of my favorite spots, although I do enjoy the Putney Inn. The Vermont Country Deli is just a little bit south of there. And as far as I'm concerned, they have the best mac and cheese on the planet. And they serve it out of a cast iron pan, and everything about it is delicious. And they have a fabulous bakery. So there was definitely a piece of apple pie made with Vermont apples eaten that afternoon, as well as a piece of carrot cake, and bought enough brisket home for dinner so I didn't have to cook. Cooking is not my favorite thing. So the trip was successful on so many levels. And then I will just share, I did make a purchase when I was there. I bought what will now be my second sweater of the winter. My goal is to knit 2 this winter. As I've shared, I do work during the day. I'm a nonprofit fundraiser, and it's a very, very busy time, as you can imagine. So we've been very busy, but I'm still finding time to knit. So I picked up 7 hanks of the mountain mohair from Green Mountain Spinnery. This color is rhododendron, and I purchased yarn a few weeks ago at the Fiber Festival of New England to make the king salmon sweater. I keep wanting to say a different type of fish because there's so many fish patterns, but this is the king salmon sweater. And I purchased a true aubergine. This is more of a purple. It's a little bit more purpley. It's not quite as deep and dark in terms of the color. And you can see the areas where the color just hasn't been saturated quite as much. So I think that the sweater is going to have some really great depth to it. So the sweater that I chose was actually designed by Kate Salomon, the person who did the tour for me when I was there. Pardon me, I'm opening it up on my phone. But the sweater is called Yoga Pants, ironically. So this is the sweater. I just want to get that on the right angle so you can actually see the rest of it. But so it's Yoga Pants, and it is available on the Green Mountain website. The sweater is a little boxy, which I liked. It was not form-fitting. I loved the 3/4 sleeve on it because I feel like I could throw it on over a tank top on a chilly night in the spring or the early fall, or I could throw it on over a long sleeve jersey type thing or a turtleneck even right now and wear it throughout the winter. The photo showed it tucked in a little bit, but I could just see it being an easy pullover, almost like a dressy or sweatshirt type of thing, which I'm all about. So I did. The pattern is saved. I just need to print it out and get that. And there happened to be that the size of the sweater, the sample that was there, is the size that I would wear. So I was able to, get exact counts on everything that I needed. So I picked up 7 hanks of the yarn, and I'm very, very excited to get started on that. So I will be working on another video next week. I've got several visits and appointments lined up with so many fiber people, instructors, dyers, stores, farms and mills, things like that. So I'm trying to spread things out a little bit, but for right now, as long as I can
keep up the pace that I'm at, I'm really happy to do it. So thank you again for finding my channel. Thank you so much to Marley and Kate and the whole team up at Green Mountain Spinnery. I had a blast. I hope they enjoy the video. I hope I did their work justice. It was just phenomenal to see this. Some of this equipment is handmade, built, and over 100 years old. It's amazing. So if you are ever in southern Vermont, it's worth your time to stop. So again, thank you so much for finding Amity Knitters on YouTube. Please subscribe, like it, and share with all your fiber friends. I'm going to be focusing on knitting primarily because I am a knitter, but I will be talking with some crochet designers and just some amazing artists who do crazy things. So thank you again, and I hope you have a lovely evening. Bye.